So I think we can get started. Session is already recording. I think the recording is started. So we wanted to have a discussion on projects, right? So what is the project? How do I explain my project in an interview? What is expected from the project, right? So this session that we are having is a two-way street. Okay, I can give you the inputs from my side. Okay, but that will be half of the story told. But what questions do you guys have in your mind when it comes to projects? Okay, because I got the request from so many people that we want to have a discussion, a session, dedicated session on projects. How do I explain my project? What is the project? So it will be, what sort of questions do you have in mind when we talk about projects? So if you can type in those questions in the chat, and we can take those questions one by one, and side by side, I'll explain you what you can do. How do you prepare a project? So that is the intent, right? How do I prepare my project? How do I explain it? Yes. Okay. So day-to-day activities also. Projects, day-to-day activities and roles and responsibilities is what you want to discuss, right? Nobody is going to ask you for PPT. What sort of PPT are you saying? So for mock, you're asking for a PPT? Real time mock L2 or a integrate best AWS services. So can you please uh, elaborate best AWS services? What do you mean by best AWS services? Is EC2 a best AWS service? Is VPC a best AWS service? Is S3 a best AWS service? So most of you people are stuck with your L2s, is what I think. So they want to prepare a PPT for their projects, ready for L2, so they can clear their L2 and move on to L3, right? Because L2 is a project discussion, right? So the questions that I see, day-to-day tasks. Mr. Pratik Pawar is asking about day-to-day tasks as well. Okay. Okay. So we'll see day-to-day activities, roles and responsibilities, and projects. Okay. So one thing that you have to keep in mind when we talk about projects and day-to-day activities and roles and responsibilities is how many years of experience you have when you're giving an interview. Okay. So the set of expectations vary based upon the number of years you have worked on. So if you have 5 years of AWS experience and you are giving an interview being a cloud admin for 5 years, so the set of expectations will be different. Okay. And if you are saying I'm working on AWS for 1 year, so what do you think? Will the expectations of the interview be same from a 5-year experienced person and a 1-year experienced person? Will he ask the same questions? No. Yes. So you have to keep that thing in mind. Okay. So, and one more thing, there is BAU and there is project. So BAU, I'll just type it in. Is business as usual. Okay. So whatever is already there, okay, in the infrastructure, in the AWS infrastructure, in the AWS tenancy, whatever is there, to make sure that all those things are running fine and running as expected, all the services are working as expected. So that is business as usual. So whatever is there, it should be running fine. Application is hosted. Okay. So your application should be running fine, running smooth, and there should not be any issues with the current operations that are going on. So that is business as usual. Is it clear? What is business as usual? You have EC2s, you have VPCs, you have S3, you have RDS, you have all this sort of services that you are using. So making sure all those services are working collaboratively fine, and the application that is hosted, it is working the way it should work. So making sure of all these things is business as usual. Okay. So being a cloud admin, it is your responsibility those are running fine. Is it breaking for all? Is it fine? Are you able to, you're able to hear me, right? Right. Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Breaking. Okay, okay. Just a moment. So is it fine now? Fine. Okay, okay. I thought better than ever. It's better than before. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So we were discussing it is AWS cloud admin's responsibility to make sure that the services are running fine. Okay. So that comes under BAU. Just a moment. So there are some activities that you need to perform as we discussed previously as well, right? You need to configure some monitoring, some alerts. Okay. So one question that came that was day-to-day task, right? So let's just touch base on that. What are the day-to-day tasks? So on day-to-day basis, what is expected from a cloud admin, right? So you are working as a cloud admin. So cloud project samples. I'll give you the master key, sir. Don't worry. You'll have hundreds of projects in your hand by the end of this session, and it will be up to you which project you want to take and how do you define it. Okay. So I'll give you the master key because what I can do being an individual, yes, you can say. So what I can do, I have worked on very limited projects. Okay. Being a single person, I cannot be working on hundreds of projects, right? So I can give you the brief, the idea of those projects, but I'll give you a master key where get hundreds of projects, and from there you can get you'll have to read through. Okay. There'll be so many things there. You'll have to read through all those and then define how you want to define a project. So first, shall we start with day-to-day activities, as there was a question above? Okay. So am I audible? Are you guys with me? Okay. So day-to-day activities, being a cloud admin. So you start your day. Just a moment. So usually, being a cloud admin, we start our day with having some sort of call or a discussion within the team So people work in shifts, right? This morning shift, we would have a view on our services, okay? Because when the business returns and there was something that broke in the night, so it should get fixed before the business starts in the next day. If it does not, that means we are going to have an impact on the business. And as I told you previously, business is always far more given priority than the technical needs. So us being a cloud admin working in an organization, so the back end of it is we have to make sure that the business is running fine. So on day-to-day basis, we have to take care of some sort of things that makes our working. And if something's broke, we have to fix it. Okay. So part of it in our day-to-day work, okay, whatever the infrastructure that we have built, okay, like the check the health of EC2 instance. Okay, so it depends on how many number of instances that you have. It should be working fine now. I think there is some fluctuation in my internet. I'm not sure why it is playing today. You are able to hear me, right? Okay, okay, okay. Break sometime. Okay. So you have to monitor the infrastructure. And as we discussed, as part of CloudWatch and CloudTrail, you can configure alarms, you can create dashboards, okay, and you can monitor tools that some organizations use. You can only use board, and from those dashboards, you can monitor what is the status of the services. So the what is expected from the monitoring, okay? So if something is not working fine, we should get notified. What is the meaning of okay checking? I'm audible now. Okay. Okay. So say I have hundreds of EC2 instances. Okay. Should I stop screen sharing? Okay. Let's try that and stop the screen sharing. Okay. So you're not able to see my screen, right? Or you will see what movie I am watching side by side. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So what is the expectation when we say monitoring the infrastructure? Say I have 1000 EC2 instances that are running. So should I go and monitor all the 1000 instances, or should I get uh, the view of the troublemaking 5 EC2 instances? So there are 5 EC2 instances, okay, out of which 2 are over provisioned. One has only health check fails, and some instances very underutilized. Okay, so I should be getting a view of things which are not working fine. Things that are completely working fine goes into green. Okay, but the red alerts over provisioned instance. Okay, CPU memory utilization is above the threshold value. My instance has failed the health check status. So for these things, I should get notified. So we create CloudWatch dashboards, okay, or we can use, there are multiple third-party tools like Prometheus and Grafana. So or is it depends on the organization what they are using. So cloud native tool is CloudWatch in terms of AWS, or Prometheus or Grafana is there. So monitoring the infrastructure, that is the part of your job. Okay. And incidents, you people know what is an incident? What do we uh, what is expected when we say an incident is occurred? Screen I have stopped sharing, Mr. Kunal. So what is an incident? Can downtime, incident equals to downtime? Yes, please type it. type in your answers. What do you understand when we say incident? Okay, cluster down, ticket, error, easy down, किस इश्यू की वजह से सिस्टम बंद हो गया. Okay, any process will be stopped, that time incident will be happen. Suddenly discontinuity of service. Yes, please type in your answers. I think I am discussing with, oh, there are 70 people, so at least 10 to 20 people should be answering. I only see only 5 to 10 people who are responding in the chat. I don't know what others are doing. Service disruption, loss of data. Okay. So incident is something, okay, so there is an application, there is service that is working fine. So disruption happens, okay. So say the users that are accessing the application, which is hosted on EC2 instances. So there is a user impact, say, okay. So uh, you have to come across the process of priority of incidents, P4, P3, P2, P1. So based on the user count, based on the business, how much impact it is having, the dysfunctionality of certain application, okay, which is generating business. So based on the user impact and what impact it is having on business, we create an incident, okay, and there are priorities to it. So these answers somewhat are related to each, uh, to what incident is. Discontinuity of service, right? So service disruption, loss of data, uh, may or may not be the case for an incident. So we were discussing day-to-day activity. So the one thing is monitoring, and another thing is, if some incident happens, okay. So other different teams, there are different teams in an organization that join in, okay, then they work on to resolve that issue. Troubleshooting happens. So OS team gets involved, Linux or Windows, based on the OS of the server, okay. The cloud team gets involved, then application team gets involved. So all these different teams get involved, and they look at what is the thing that is causing the that is causing this issue, okay. So if it is application end, so they uh, rectified from application end. So, and if say EC2 instance failed the health check status, okay, so the server is not going to work. So that will be an impact. So it comes at our end, so we'll have to reboot that instance. So incident, working on an incident if it is there, and troubleshooting. So that is one part of our activities. And making sure the infrastructure that is built or that is provisioned in cloud, it is working as it it is maintained under the security measures, okay. So there are security principles that are defined for an organization. So whatever the infrastructure that is there, that one best example is, we don't open our security groups for the whole world. So 0.0.0 your default VPCs under which you are practicing, okay. So in the security group, if you check, so we have the inbound opened for 0.0.0.0/0. That means open to internet, anything can come in, okay. So that is a big security no-no. So making the sure that the infrastructure is secured, okay, and it is following the compliance. So we have to put in security measures so that our data is protected. So we have to monitor the on in terms of security. So what comes when we talk about security? So we have cloud services like guard duty, security hub, guard duty, config. So all these services are there. So we enable those services in AWS accounts, and we send the logs to SecOps team. So there is a security team. So the logs are sent and they monitor. And if they see any suspicious activity, then they action. So maintaining the security and compliance, okay. So you need to be across the ITIL process. Okay. So most of the things in your day-to-day activities are covered under ITIL, service management and change management process, and making sure that backups of the services are there. So we discussed in AWS backup, right? Say when we were discussing AWS backup, that say my instance got terminated by mistake. So what should I do? So I need to have a backup in place so I can go back and restore the data from the backup. So making sure that backup is there, and DR is something, it depends on the organization. What is the criticality? So you enable once. Nice question, Mr. Ashraf. I was expecting this question. So it's not part of our daily work. So when the account is created, so we enable those services and we configure with the third-party security monitoring tool. Okay. So whatever the security and monitoring tool is there. So our what comes at our part is that the logging is configured correctly so that it goes to third-party monitoring tool. There are different tools, Splunk and Hunk, the security teams use to monitor the infrastructure. So enabling these services, and if any request come from their side, so making sure that the logs are going in. So security team, if they come in, so I don't see any logs coming in from guard duty. Okay. So guard duty is an incident management tool. So it doesn't usually generate the logs. It only generates a log if any suspicious activity happens. Okay. So making sure that all these things are configured correctly, and other security and compliance things are making sure that this our infrastructure is not open to internet, as I said, security groups. Okay. So all these things are needed to be taken care by cloud team, and most of security controls. So there is SecOps team which monitors it. And resource optimization. Okay. So say I have provisioned an EC2 instance which is on 8 CPU and 64 RAM. Take an example. Okay. And when we see 20 RAM on daily basis, okay, and maybe 3 CPU and 20 GB RAM. So what we structure, because we are paying for more than what we use. So right sizing and optimization is part of our activity that comes under cost optimization. So cost is also given an importance, uh, how much we are paying for the services. So making sure that the infrastructure that is provisioned, so it is rightly provisioned, it is not over provisioned, that we are just using 20% of it and we are paying for 100%. So right sizing and optimization is one part. Okay. And there is one more thing, right? When we are using an OS, so patching is also an activity. So it depends. If you are working in a big organization, so there'll be OS teams will take care of patching. Okay. And if you get a chance to work in a small organization, so a lot of it will fall on you. So there are so many things that you will need to take care of, like patch management, performance tuning, okay, and capacity planning. So it depends what role you get in an organization. In the big organizations, so roles are defined. Okay. So it is defined that a cloud admin should do only this much particular task, and task beyond it goes to different team. Okay. But in a small organization, so a lot of it falls on us. So they'll expect you to manage the OS as well. They'll expect you to manage the patching. They'll expect you to manage the cloud infrastructure as well. So it depends what roles and what organization you are part of. So these things come under your day-to-day activities. I hope it is clear what you can say. Is it clear what we discussed on our day-to-day activities? If any questions, please type in. ETL pipelines. Hey, Mr. Kashi, we are coming to projects. So this thing is clear. I'm addressing your questions only. ETL pipeline भी मैनेज करना पड़ता है. It depends. ETL क्या है ना अभी it's a big thing, ठीक है? Extracts, transformation and loading. So I haven't actually worked on an ETL project. Okay. So not much that I can assist you, but the services that you are using, okay, being a cloud admin. So people use Redshift and then other services as well, Glue, all these services they are using. So working on the infrastructure part of it, okay. So there is data. When we talk about ETL, so there are two things, right? There is data and there is infrastructure. So being a cloud admin, it is expected from us that we manage the infrastructure. Are you getting my point? Managing those AWS services and making sure. Data engineer Sana. So I haven't worked on data much, but I maybe you from infrastructure from infra perspective we can discuss. You can ping me. From infra perspective I can guide, but not from data perspective. ऐसा किसमें ज्यादा है, इंफ्रा और डेटा? ये तो मेरे को भी नहीं पता यार. इंफ्रा वाले भी कमा रहे, डेटा वाले भी कमा रहे, है ना? So we were discussing on, so we were moving to project, right? So should we focus on both or any of? Listen, data is a completely different stream. There is data engineering, okay, you may need to be across SQL and other data tools, other databases, okay. From infrastructure you need to concentrate on AWS services, okay. So when we say most important is you have to work with presence of mind and smart solution within time. Yes. So there are two things, okay. If when you say I am working as a data engineer, so there'll be specific services, AWS services that are used, okay, and you'll have to work with those services, and other than AWS services are also needed, right, like SQL and other data extraction tools, and maybe some dashboards or services which give you the end result with data. So I am not an expert on data, so those services will come in. And when we talk about infrastructure, so there'll be infrastructure services even if you are working on a data project. So being a cloud admin, you'll have to manage those in AWS infrastructure services which are used in data engineering, okay. So now let's move to project. What is a project? Can somebody please type in? What do you mean by a project? Showcase hands-on experience. Okay. Others, please. What do you mean by a project? Am I talking to only one person in this group? The whole process of solving some problem by using different services. a summary demonstration of what we implemented in the organization. Okay. Temporary endeavor with specific objectives, tasks, and resources allocated to deliver a unique product. My God. Service results within a defined time frame. I think I can say good use of chat GPT. I'm not sure. ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के प्रॉब्लम्स का सॉल्यूशन देना कि systematical management of task for solving problems depends upon client use case. Okay, Rushikesh, depends upon client use case. Yes. So all these are somewhat right if taken into context, and more relevant answer is depends upon the client use case. Yes. So one thing we discussed is having BAU in place. Okay, so managing the operations, as we discussed, that one important aspect of it is managing the operations, making sure that whatever is there is working fine. Okay, so there is a project which is already deployed. Okay, and those, for that particular project, making sure that the services that are there, whatever the infrastructure is there, it is working fine. So that is one part of it. So BAU, so whatever, so it comes under BAU, and then there are strategic initiatives, okay, that an organization takes. Are you guys with me? There is an strategic, there are some strategic initiatives that an organization takes, or there are different application teams for the client. Okay, say you have a retail project. Okay, so what 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 different projects you can think of when I say, as I told you just right now, there is a retail project. What other things that you can think of when I say a project? I'm sharing my screen, please let me know if it is visible. Capacity planning in AWS project. Yes, you can. So here is the thing. We have to show capacity planning. So I think most of the people are coming from the big data mindset, capacity planning, cluster capacity planning, right? So being a cloud admin, is hosted on 10 EC2 instance. Okay, I stop sharing. Okay, so this question, capacity planning in AWS project. So here, understand one thing. When we talk about big data, okay, so I have a big data project. Okay, understand, I have a big data project, and it has name node, secondary name node, or standby name node, resource managers, standby data nodes, okay, worker nodes. So I have a big data cluster which is hosted on 50 instances. Okay, so the cluster capacity is 50 nodes. That means 50 EC2 instances it is using in the background. So being a big data admin, you are asked define the capacity planning, right? How did you define the capacity? How did you come to know that my project needs 50 instances, out of which 40 are data nodes and others are masters? So that is one thing. But when we talk about being a cloud admin, so there can be a big data project which is hosted on AWS. Understand what I'm trying to say? So there can be a big data project which is hosted on AWS. There can be a DevOps project. There can be application which is monolithic, which is using EC2 instances. Okay. So all these different things are hosted on AWS, and being a cloud admin, it is your responsibility to manage responsibility to manage the infrastructure of big data project, infrastructure of DevOps project, infrastructure of other different application teams project. So are you with me? That it becomes your responsibility. Whatever is hosted on AWS, being a cloud admin, you have to manage it. If I am saying I am a big data admin, so you will be asked on the services. Okay, what AWS services you are using? I'm using EC2. My cluster is deployed on EC2. I'm using a database RDS. I'm using Oracle RDS. Okay, and there are different services that I'm using. I'm using S3 for storage. Okay, but I have my expertise is in big data. So that is one side of a story. And the other side of a story is I am a cloud admin, and in my cloud infrastructure, I have multiple projects. So being a cloud admin, I have to manage infrastructure for the big data project. I have to manage the infrastructure for the data engineering project. I have to manage the infrastructure for the different application teams. Is it clear now? Is it making more sense? So when I took the mock of the people, so right, so this was the question that people asked. How do I define capacity planning of my instance of my cluster? So whoever asked the question, thank you so much for asking that question, so we could clear the doubt. So these are two different directions. Hope you got it now, that being a cloud admin, what I need to do. So this point is clear when we talk about cluster capacity planning. So where it goes, and being a cloud admin, where it goes. So you can say I am managing 100 EC2 instances, and all the 100 EC2 instances are not for one project. Okay, some of the instances are for this big data, some of the instances are for this particular application, some of the instances are for that particular application. Okay, and then there is non-production, there is production, there is dev testing. Combined all, I'm managing more than 100 EC2 instances. But as cloud admin, we need to manage AWS services. Yes. So abhi capacity. So capacity, if you say, so application, okay, there's application team who know what volume of inputs or what volume of users are going to hit, and what volume of data that I need to handle, okay, each and every time. So based on that, capacity is planned. So when best example is, or basic example is, take example of EC2 instance. Okay, I need to have high availability. I need to have my application available 24/7, and on each and every day there is a particular time frame where user traffic is more. Okay, so based on this, I define कि okay, मेरे ये project के लिए I need at least 8 RAM and 32, no, 8 CPU and 32 RAM. Okay, so 8 vCPUs and 32 memory is what I need on per instance, and I am using 10 instances. Okay, so that's how we, if there is an architect, okay, so that architect comes in, discusses with the application team, and he defines that this is how the application should be. You are going to use 10 EC2 instances. Each instance will have, the EC2 instance will have 8 CPU and 32 RAM, and it will be spread across multiple AZs. So you'll get an HA, and your capacity will be managed. You're getting, so come out of that big data wala capacity. The concept is same. How do you define the capacity? But it has to more deal with the application team. And based on that, the instance type that we choose, so that covers the capacity. Then there is latency. Okay, what latency do we need? And do we need the instance to be memory optimized or compute optimized? Yes, Prasad, it depends on the use case. What use case the application team is bringing on the table. Based on that, we define the capacity. It can vary. There are thousands of instance types that AWS is offering. So based on the use case, based on the application teams requirement, we choose the instance or the capacity is defined. Okay, so what different projects can be there? Can somebody please tell me? As I said, give you an example of there can be a retail project. What other projects can be there? When you say my client is banking and finance, yes. So security is topmost priority. When you say banking and finance, so you need to be across, yes, you people know healthcare, commerce, okay, automotive and manufacturing, yes. So there can be multiple projects, media and entertainment, yes, telecom, telecommunication, healthcare. So all these are projects. So let me share my screen now. Are you able to see? If the voice breaks, please let me know. But I need to share the screen. ये जा रहा क्यों नहीं यार ऊपर, ये टॉगल क्यों नहीं हो रहा? I'll just stop sharing once. How many of you know what is success story? What is a success story? Customer who got success using AWS infrastructure. Please choose any one of use case and make project from that from start to end. It will be your choice. Okay. AWS के clients की story. Yes. So यार ये ऊपर तो जा नहीं रहा है, क्यों नहीं पता नहीं मेरे को. अभी इनकॉग्निटो वाला विंडो दिख रहा है, राइट? ओके, सक्सेस स्टोरी इज AWS के क्लाइंट की स्टोरी. Customer who got success using infra. Success story like a feedback from customer who use AWS services and how it benefit them. Yes, Mr. Wasi. Correct. Yes, yes, no. Oh, AWS के client की story, successful client की story. Okay. So I'll type in AWS success story. एक प्रोजेक्ट बना सकते हैं हम अभी. So देखो, पहले let me give you this. So there is AWS documentation on the customer success story. So what is says customer stories from AWS event, find AWS customer story. And this is what a project is. Just give me a moment. I'll be back. Just give me 2 minutes. Okay, I'm audible? Okay, so find an AWS customer story. Say you are saying, I have American client, okay, and my project is finance based. So here, as you are seeing on the web page, they are offering different domains: education, finance, government, healthcare, manufacturing, and retail. Okay. So to prepare a project, what I need to do, say I'm taking an example of retail. Okay. And this is the project. So what they are doing here is they are telling us how they solved their problem using AWS's service called SageMaker. Okay. Opportunity solution. Okay. So this is machine learning project. So I would not recommend you going through this. Machine learning. IoT platform. Okay, the overview of the project. So this is my client, what my client does. So here are two things. Okay, there are thousands of projects, and you will have to read. You'll have to read through what each project is saying, what story they are saying. Here, they are more dedicated on Lambda and DynamoDB. So these are the major services that they have used to solve their problem. So here, what will happen in the success stories? You'll have to think of a domain. Okay, for which domain I am preparing a project: healthcare, manufacturing, retail, government, finance, education. So take one domain. Okay, for finance domain, HSBC is the bank. Okay, scale using AWS, and go through this complete document. Okay, and see what they are trying to say. So this is what the project is. They have shown, or they have defined their project here. So, ये क्या है? WhatsApp chat क्या है ये? I have created my project on ETL in healthcare domain, so I have to take database of RDS or RDBMS. It depends. As I told you, your project can be anything. You just have to justify. Okay, so I am using RDS. RDBMS is the data. Okay, I am using MySQL RDS. So for my project, we needed to have a database, and after discussion with the application team, the architect gave a solution to use MySQL database, or SQL database, or Oracle database. So we are using Oracle database, and we have the application hosted there, and the data, when the users are trying to access my application. Okay, I'll give you an example of the project. So I'll give you an overview of a retail project. Take example of Amazon. Okay, so listen carefully what I'm trying to say here. Okay, so Amazon, there is an application. Okay, Amazon application, from which we are doing the shopping. Okay, online shopping of so many stuff. So what happens? There is a user who creates an account on Amazon for the retail project. Okay, so this is a retail project. They are serving the purpose of retail. So user creates an account, user logs in. Okay, and then he is given, what we say, the console of Amazon. And from that console, he types in, okay, I want to buy earphones, I want to buy a smartphone. Okay. So all these things, and his credentials are stored. Okay. Whatever the credentials, his email, his mobile number, his email ID, his password, when the account is created, so it gets stored in the background in the database. Okay. Application is running on EC2. He has given the credentials. Now one more thing comes is, I am saving my credit card details. Okay. So I am a usual buyer from Amazon, and what I do, I shop from Amazon. So what I am doing, rather than every time uh giving the card details, what I have done is I have saved my card details in the Amazon. So whenever I am purchasing, so the money is debited from that particular credit card that I have saved. Okay. So what is there? I have to save the credit, the Amazon the application, they have to save the user credentials. Okay. What they have to do, they have to save the credit card details. Okay. And they have to see the behavior. Okay. This particular person, he is a usual visitor to the application. Okay. And this particular person, he only comes in when the Amazon Prime Day comes in, or whatever their big Indian festival comes in. So this user comes in here, and this particular user, so we are talking about user behavior. So there is caching that comes in. So this particular user, when he comes in, he looks for smartphones, he looks for earphones. Okay. So what it does, when I am opening an application, so I am directly taken based on my interest. The homepage shows me smartphones offers, earphones offers. Okay. So this is how the application is architecture, that particular user's behavior is captured, and based on that, they are given the outputs on the application console. So I am using database to save the user credentials. I am using database to save the credit card credentials, and then I am encrypting those credentials. Okay, so that it does not get compromised. Encryption is one important security aspect. So when things are encrypted, so they cannot be stolen. Okay, this is one thing. And then based on the user behavior, I am caching. So based on the cache, the particular user is given based on his search interests, that these are the things that you usually search for, so buy from it. Okay. So application is hosted on EC2. I'm using KMS for encryption. I am using database. I'm using caching service. I may use CloudFront. Okay. For user caching. So Amazon is a global application, understand? And I'm a user who is logging in to amazon.com from India. Okay. And their server is, say for example, hosted in US East. So there'll be latency. Okay. For me to get access to the page, there'll be latency. So in the project, what I have done, I have created a CloudFront. Okay. CloudFront, what it does, it gives me regional caching. Okay. So they have their caching somewhere in Mumbai, somewhere in Hyderabad, okay, somewhere in Kashmir, somewhere in Bangalore. So they have their, yes, CDN, content delivery network. So I am using a CloudFront CDN, and this CDN, what it does is it gives me better application use, or I get a better experience because the data is cached over there. So what I in with that, what happens is I am not directly going to that USE server, but it is cached in the CloudFront, and I am getting faster results and better experience from the application. Okay. So what my project looking like is, I am using CloudFront for caching. I am using a database. I am using encryption. I am using so many background services. S3 hai, S3 is there, VPC is there. Okay. All that combines, and it becomes a project of retail. Okay. So how do you come to, so this is not my use case, the project that I have defined here. So that is not the project that I am working on, but I just created a use case out of it. How can I do it? So I have to go through these success stories. Okay. Here you are saying Dexatech. Okay, so this is the organization which is morely into manufacturing of electronics and semiconductors. Okay, so they had some issues. So here are these are the important pointers. So you open this case story, success story, you look at the overview. Okay, what is that and what opportunity they had, what solution they used, and what was the outcome of it. Okay, so the example that I have given you is a generic retail example. Not everybody needs to prepare the same. Okay, you can look at your interest if you are talking about healthcare. Okay, so healthcare will have healthcare project is built with healthcare. We say there are patients. Okay, and then there are different domains. So if you talk about a government healthcare domain, which is doing from A to Z, everything is there. The- there is treatment for cancer, there is treatment for viral diseases, there is a treatment for, yes. So there are so many things and so many patients and so many use cases when we talk about healthcare. Okay, so you can, what you can do, Greenway Healthcare. So what was their issue? Overview. One of the first companies to offer electronic healthcare records. Okay. So what happens is, so there is a healthcare organization. They are so they have their patients lists and they have their patients volume. So there are hundreds of patients who come in for the viral diseases. Okay, there are hundreds of patients who come in for certain diseases. So based on that, those are categorized. Okay, so how do you serve the patients better? Okay, so you see, when you go into a big hospital, so there are different floors, and based on floors, they have their specializations. Okay, eye care is taken in one. Okay, and then bones का क्या होता है, and then there is a delivery wala, and then there is heart specialist, and then there is there's for brain, then there is neuro. Mr. Suraj, please ping me on WhatsApp. Yes, maternity, orthopedic. So we have to classify. Okay, in the hospital only you are saying that there are different floors that are dedicated uh based on. Mr. Suraj, you can ping me on WhatsApp. I think you have my number. We can discuss on that. Yes. So there are different floors. Okay. So how do I make an application, or how do I host all these details on AWS that it serves better? Okay. Are you getting? So from physical infrastructure point of view, I have segregated using different floors. So if you are coming for orthopedic, go to certain floor. Then you will have different specializations of orthopedics. So we have different doctors. So this is one scenario that I am saying you. So this is how different use cases for different healthcare domains are there. So when we are seeing here Greenway Healthcare, okay, so they have their different use case, and how they had terabytes of data. Okay, hundreds of terabytes of data. So their concern was, or their concern is, how do I manage this much volume of data, and how do I get the distilled information or metadata out of it so that we can treat the patients better. So what they did, they are using document DB. So these success stories are based on the AWS services and the use cases. So what I would recommend is, have a look at all this. So first, what you have to do is you have to define which domain you are looking at. Okay, first thing, look at, define the domain. Okay, I want to do something in manufacturing. go through at least 10 of stories. Read 5 to 10 stories. As you can see, there are so many success stories. You'll get an idea what are the real world problems and how those problems are solved using AWS for manufacturing. Are you guys with me? बहुत ज्यादा बाउंसर जा रहा है, समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. Is something of that sort, please ping in the chat so we can see how do we discuss differently. Are you guys following what I'm trying to say? How you make a project? Okay, yes. Okay, thank you so much. So pick a particular domain. So I told you two things. Okay, there is मैंने कुछ सक्सेस स्टोरीज पढ़ी और उसमें समझने की कोशिश की, बट बहुत सारों में एक पर्टिकुलर सर्विस के बेनिफिट्स बताए हैं. सो दैट्स वी कंफ्यूज विच सर्विस वी टेक और अंडरस्टैंड. ओके, नाइस क्वेश्चन मिस्टर अशरफ. Can we deploy one project? How can we? So I gave you an example of Amazon, that they are using CloudFront, they are using EC2, they are using database, and then there'll be load balancer that will come in. And I think I discussed with you WAF and Shield from security perspective. Did I? So when we say we are using CloudFront, so we'll have to use WAF and Shield as well. So this project, you will have to fit into that architecture. So the architecture session that we had discussed previously in the last discussion that we had, so correlate that particular session with this project. Are you guys getting me what I am trying to say? The architecture session was how you combine the services. So here I am connecting the two dots. I had given one dot in our previous session, and now I am giving you one dot here, and there is a line that is connecting the two. We discussed architectures in our previous session. How do you prepare an architecture and how the services combined together work? So those services combined together that we discussed in our previous session is serving a project. Getting me? The architectures that we discussed last time, so that architecture is built for a particular project. Here in my example, it is built for Amazon's retail project, that I have the user count, I have global users, and I have to use auto scaling, and then I have to protect my infrastructure from DDoS. So what I am doing, I'm using EC2, I'm using auto scaling, I'm using a load balancer, I have a database. Okay, and then that load balancer, above that load balancer, I am using CloudFront. Okay, so caching is there, global users are served better, and over that CloudFront, what I am doing is I am using a WAF and Shield to protect my infrastructure from DDoS. So this particular architecture is serving my need of retail project. You guys get it? समझ में आया? जिसने पुराना सेशन फिर से देखा है, they are getting what I am trying to say more. जिसने सेशन अटेंड किया बाद में छोड़ दिया, जिसने सेशन अटेंड ही नहीं किया, so it is a huge bouncer for them. So those who have rewatched our previous architecture session and now we are discussing a project, so they are more clear on we tried to achieve with these two sessions. Are you guys with me? समझ में आ रहा है? कितने परसेंट समझ में आया? How I connected the dots? 99%. Thank you. So that's why king the projects. So there was a question, can you please deploy the project? So deployment is one thing. Deployment, what is the deployment? Deploying those services, connecting them, and then the users are coming and they are having the best of the experience. So when you look at my architecture session first, I gave you a compute architecture, 3-tier architecture. Okay, So that is the architecture that is used to combine the services. And what that particular architecture is doing, that's serving a business purpose. मैंने मेरा व्हाट्सएप नंबर आई थिंक लास्ट टाइम भी पिंग किया था. आई पिंग अगेन. सो मेक श्योर वन थिंग, don't call me directly, please. Ping me on WhatsApp. Don't call directly, ping me on WhatsApp, okay? We can discuss. So पिक्चर समझ में आई क्या भाई? दो पार्ट में पिक्चर बनी है ये बाहुबली की. First we discuss the architectures, and then we are discussing the projects and what you need to do. Go through the case study, okay? What case study is showing what, and then fit it in your architecture. Okay, so I have a case study of a retail project. अभी मेरे को पता है बहुत सारे लोग यही रिटेल वाली केस स्टोरी चिपकाने वाले सब जगह. कोई nobody is going to go into this AWS customer stories and they are going to study, but whoever studies these or whoever reads through these customer success stories and watches these two videos, go through these customer stories, and when they prepare the project they'll have more clear view. They'll be able to explain more. They'll be able to explain in a better way than the people who just watch these two sessions and chipka diya retail wala story. So the architectures that we discussed, that this is the architecture, this is how different AWS services come together. डेटा लाना पड़ेगा. Can you please elaborate? अभी क्या है ना, real time users, when I'm talking about Amazon, millions of users are using Amazon all over the world. So can I create those number of instances, those number of users, and see how the application is working? Can I deploy the application currently? So it's not just our task. Our task is, तो बता रहा हूँ ना, मैं वही बता रहा हूँ. Our task is different teams come together. When we talk about a project, application team है, Amazon की खुद की application team है, okay? They are discussing with an architect, okay? Architect is proposing a solution, and this solution's engineering, that solution deployment is handled by us, okay? अभी मैंने इसके पहले सेशन लिया था, टेस्टिंग, डेवलपमेंट, टेस्टिंग, नॉन प्रोडक्शन, प्रोडक्शन, ओके? सो रिक्वायरमेंट इज कमिंग कि हाँ चलो अमेजोन आया, मेरे को एक एप्लीकेशन बनाना है विच नीड्स टू सर्व ग्लोबल यूजर्स. तो डायरेक्टली प्रोडक्शन में बना के ग्लोबल यूजर्स को डाल देंगे क्या? एप्लीकेशन इतना फटेगा, भंगार एक्सपीरियंस, पीपल विल नॉट यूज इट. So what they will do, the application team will come in and they'll deploy their infrastructure in the test environment. चलो पहले टेस्टिंग करते भाई, पहले पीओसी करके देखते, एक छोटे लेवल पे 2 इंस्टेंसेस के ऊपर बनाते, पीओसी करके देखते, फिर उसको लेके जाते डेवलपमेंट टेस्टिंग में. और डेवलपर्स विल कम, दे विल टेस्ट देयर डिफरेंट सिनेरियोस, ओके? फिर टेस्टिंग हो गया, फिर थोड़ा भी यूजर काउंट बढ़ाते. तो क्या करते हैं, और ज्यादा यूजर्स, समझ लो हंड्रेड्स और 200 ऑफ यूजर्स के साथ में एप्लीकेशन को टेस्ट करते हो. अब वो कौन है वो यूजर्स? अंदर ही कंपनी के ही बंदे. दे आर, सो application is deployed on a larger scale, okay? And the same test credentials are created, they are given the credentials, and okay, so this is our use case. We are building an application, you test, okay? You see how the application is behaving. So पहले POC किया, टेस्टिंग किया, डेवलपर टेस्टिंग के बाद में नॉन प्रॉड में गया, तो जो इश्यूज आए उसको नॉन प्रॉड के अंदर रिजॉल्व किया. यूजर वॉल्यूम बढ़ा है, यूजर वॉल्यूम बढ़ा, दैट मींस द वॉल्यूम ऑफ माय इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इज आल्सो गोइंग टू बी इंक्रीज्ड, okay? Number of instances is going to increase, CPU RAM is going to increase, services architecture will be broader, okay? I may need to test it on multi AZ. So non production के अंदर भी ये टेस्ट किया, वो टेस्टिंग होने के बाद में जो भी मेरे को इश्यूज आ रहे थे उसको रेक्टिफाई किया, देन आई गो इनटू प्रोडक्शन. सो डेटा कब बढ़ेगा? नॉन प्रोडक्शन के अंदर नंबर ऑफ यूजर्स बढ़ रहे हैं, मतलब डेटा आ रहा है, यूजर्स बिहेवियर आ रहा है, यूजर क्रेडेंशियल्स आ रहे हैं जो सेव हो रहे हैं. फिर उसके बेसिस पे मेरे को जो यूजर जो सर्च कर रहा है उसको वो कंसोल के ऊपर वो दिखाना है. आप लोग समझ रहे हो मैं क्या कहना चाह रहा हूँ? Mr. Suraj is 100% clear. Yes. Alpha, beta, gamma test stage, and then release. Okay. Yes. I think participation is very less in the chat. Not sure. Okay. So based on these 5 to 10 responses, I am taking into consideration that you guys are clear. हाँ, ये भी बता देंगे. So I hope you got a broader picture of how things are. Okay. कि पहले मैंने एक आर्किटेक्चर वाला सेशन लिया, उसके पहले मैंने एक जो सेशंस लिए थे कि how there are different environments in an organization and how the application goes live to the end users, to the users who are not in the organization, and जहां से business generate होने वाला है. So ये एक हो गया. उसके बाद में फिर मेरा एप्लीकेशन गो लाइव होता है. फिर उसके बाद में जब यूजर काउंट बढ़ता है तो उसके बाद में भी देखो रियल टाइम जो होता है ना, दैट इज सो व्हाट वी आर डिस्कसिंग. हाँ, जब वॉल्यूम ऑफ यूजर्स बढ़ता है, जब रियल टाइम यूजर्स आर कमिंग, सो दैट इज कंप्लीटली अ डिफरेंट सिनेरियो. ओके. सो यू लर्न फ्रॉम दैट बिहेवियर एज वेल एंड देन यू अपग्रेड योर एप्लीकेशन, यू डू द मॉडिफिकेशंस इन द रियल टाइम. So that's how you go towards building a well architected application which serves the users based on their behavior and based on their searches. So I think I was able to connect the last 3 to 4 sessions that I took here. So those who went and rewatched those sessions and then uh, heard what I tried to say in the last 15 to 20 minutes, they are able to relate on what an architecture and what a project combined together looks like, and how do we take the application in the production environment stage by stage. Okay. So are you guys clear with this? I think yes. So are you guys clear what is expected when we say a project, when we say what project you are working on? More yeses, that means you guys are able to catch what I tried to explain here, what we have been discussing for past 1.5 hours. So this is how your project looks like. Okay, कि project is not कि भाई कुछ दुनिया के बाहर का मेरे को बताना है. अरे भाई वही AWS की सर्विसेज है, वही सर्विसेज यूज करके एक आर्किटेक्चर बन रहा है, और देर इज अ बिजनेस रिक्वायरमेंट दैट इट इज फुलफिलिंग. देर कैन बी लॉजिस्टिक्स इन्वायरमेंट रिक्वायरमेंट. ओके. जैसे अभी फ्लिपकार्ट का मैंने, अमेजोन का मैंने ऑर्डर कर दिया, फिर वो शिप होके मेरे पास आना चाहिए ना. एप्लीकेशन का एक पर्पस क्या है कि इट इज सर्विंग मी व्हाट आई नीड. फिर मैंने आई हैव प्लेस द ऑर्डर, उसके बाद में उसका फिजिकल ट्रांसपोर्टेशन स्टार्ट होता है. ओके. सो दैट इज वन मोर पार्ट के अभी हम लोग देखते हैं द ऑर्डर इज शिप्ड, द ऑर्डर हैज reached our this warehouse. From this warehouse the order is shift to your local region. Then from there the delivery agent has picked up the order and you are getting the order. So whatever you have ordered, it is coming to you. So order placement tak ek one thing, and then shipment to your destination is another thing. So that can be also one of your architectures, one of your projects. Are you guys getting me? I have given you so many dots. You just need to rewatch, go through these success stories, and you have a project in your plate. If you do well and good. Okay. I'll take healthcare. So अभी जो पीपीटी बनाने की बात हुई थी, सो सबसे पहले आएगा प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट. ओके. मेरा प्रोजेक्ट क्या है, उसका प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट क्या है, क्या इश्यू था, एंड देन हाउ वी सॉल्व इट. सो अभी मैं क्या बता रहा था. ये ये जो है ना, ये तुम्हारे पीपीटी के स्लाइड्स का ओवरव्यू है। ठीक है, पहले मेरा प्रोजेक्ट, आई एम यूजिंग दिस हेल्थ केयर वाला प्रोजेक्ट, हेल्थ केयर डोमेन के अंदर ओवरव्यू कि मेरा प्रोजेक्ट किस बारे में है। एंड सो मिस्टर चेतन has said, sir, sample project please. So that's what we were discussing, Mr. Chetan. You have to watch my sessions and then you'll have to prepare. So it cannot be that I prepare one project and give to you. There were 70 people. Now it has come down to 59, 58. People might not have enjoyed the session. So what will happen? All of you will go take this wala and chipkao in every interview. So if, for example, consider 10 of you are facing the same interview and you're telling the same story. So that's why I have given you the dot of AWS customer success stories. You'll have to go through this. You have to study the architecture session that we had. You'll have to make your use case of the services and the project, and then you'll have to present. So BAU part of it, business as usual, making sure that the application is running fine, and then strategic initiative projects that are coming in. So these things combined will present you being a cloud admin. So are you guys clear with the session and what I tried to explain? Any questions? So Mr. Chetan, I think you are clear why. So sample projects I have explained you, but I cannot present that on a PPT. I am not a PPT guy. I'm really sorry. So I think and I hope the PPT will be, so it is for the L2 people. Okay, I take L3, so I haven't and I don't usually check the PPTs much, and that is at my end that I'm not pretty much familiar how it is expected that you prepare a PPT for L2, but I have given you. You'll have your problem statements, you'll have your problems that were faced and how you overcome those and how AWS services are used and what is the architecture of your services. So someone who takes L2 can guide you better with your presentation. But all these things that we have discussed in the past sessions will combine together to present you as a cloud admin, is what I'm trying to explain here. Are you guys with me? Did you understand what we discussed today and how we correlated our past two sessions with this session and what a project looks like? So you'll have to read through, you'll have to define your scope of how you want to define a project. So are we clear? Any questions? Hope you guys enjoyed the ride today. I'm not sure. Okay. Any questions in terms of project and architectures? So if you are coming across, let me highlight one more thing, a project uh, which looks very interesting to you, that this is the project I should be presenting and it is talking about a particular service. So have a look at how this service, what is the use case of this service, what this service does, okay, and how it can be integrated with the services stack that I am using, okay. If you are talking about document DB that we said that hundreds of terabytes of data and that particular service is used, so you can see how that service fits in an architecture and you can present it, okay. So that will be a point that rather than using these basic services, I am using this particular service as well, which is serving this particular business use case. So when this understanding will come, when you read through tens of these success stories, because they have given everything, what problem they were facing and how they overcame with that particular problem and what is the end result that they are getting now. So you have to read through this, and if you face any issues, you can WhatsApp me anytime. I have shared the number. So do we have to read different use cases for every service we will be showing in the project? There go. यूज ऑफ द सर्विस रिमेन्स द सेम। ओके, EC2 क्या करने वाला है, इट इज गोइंग टू होस्ट विंडोज और लिनक्स। मैं मेरा VM बनाऊंगा EC2 के ऊपर। ओके, अब डिफरेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के भाई माय एप्लीकेशन, there is an I have my application and it needed to scale based on the user traffic. So what I did, I used a Windows instance, I used a Linux instance, I installed my application on those instances and then used auto scaling to scale up the application. समझ रहे हो? So basic use case of AWS service remains the same. Your use case is what highlights how you have used that service. समझ रहे हो? S3 is going to store the data. VPC is an isolated environment for you to provision the services. Athena, अरे भाई रेडशिफ्ट जो है ना देखो कॉस्टली है, ठीक है, और रेडशिफ्ट इज अ डेटा वेयर हाउस। तुम सिर्फ 10 GB के लिए रेडशिफ्ट नहीं बनाते हो, बहुत ज्यादा डेटा है, यू नीड टू स्टोर। और अथीना क्या है, क्वेरिंग है, क्वेरिंग लैंग्वेज है। अभी जैसा मेरे फायरवॉल के लॉग्स है, अब मेरे को पर्टिकुलर टाइम फ्रेम के अंदर पर्टिकुलर आईपी के ऊपर देखना है कि भाई ये पर्टिकुलर आईपी का क्या था, तो उसके बेसिस पे आई रन अथीना क्वेरी, और वो अथीना की क्वेरी से आई गेट द रिजल्ट्स। हाइव यार, आई एम नॉट अ बिग डेटा गाय, बट अथीना इज अ क्वेरिंग लैंग्वेज। तो अभी rather than going manually looking at all the logs, you can create Athena table and you can query। समझ रहे हो? Redshift is a different story, Redshift data warehouse है, उसका अलग काम है। Redshift के ऊपर मैंने काम नहीं किया, बट आई थिंक उसमें भी क्वेरी चलती है। वाह 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 वाह, माफ करा के लिए क्या फिर, आई गॉट 2.5 लाख बिल प्रैक्टिसिंग Redshift। सही है ना फिर, अथीना से नहीं आने वाला है इतना। हाइव स्पार्क को फ्लूम, हाँ, ये जो है ना EMR, ये बिग डेटा के जो तुम्हारे ओपन सोर्स वाले जो लफड़े है ना, EMR, देखो मैनेज सर्विस, मैनेज मतलब बहुत कुछ मैनेज हो जाता है, तुम तुम्हारे काम के ऊपर ध्यान दो। AWS क्या कर रहा है, इज अ मैनेज सर्विसेज प्रोवाइडर। समझ रहे हो? सो बहुत सारी चीजें मैनेज करके दे रहा है, तुम तुम्हारे इंफ्रा के ऊपर ध्यान दो। सो दैट्स हाउ इट इज। व्हाट आर योर डे टू डे एक्टिविटीज सर? अभी मेरा जान दो यार, मैं अलग लेवल पे काम करता हूँ, आई वर्क ऑन आर्किटेक्टिंग द सॉल्यूशंस। सो वो बीच में जो आर्किटेक्ट आर्किटेक्ट डाल रहा था ना, उसके साथ में मैं थोड़ा बहुत कर लेता हूँ गरीबी में। 2.5 लाख बड़ा सोचो यार। ठीक है, सो आर वी गाइस क्लियर what we discussed? I hope yes. Any which ways, I get the feedback. What was your feedback and how you found the session? So hope you guys enjoyed the session. If any questions, please reach out to me over WhatsApp anytime. Okay, any questions you can type in or we can drop. Okay, thank you guys, have a nice day. Bye. Thank you.